Hey guys, how's it going? Owen and Andrew here.
What's up, YouTube?
Tonight we're going to give you a review on the Replica Troy rails made by Madbull. So basically the whole idea with these rails is to have a lightweight and modular setup on the front of your gun. It eliminates the quad rail by having a built-in monolithic upper rail, and then it comes with these little things. That's the long one, and this is the short one. You get two of these, one of these, and basically you can take them and you can attach them at any point and anywhere you want on the outside of these rails. So it really gives you a lot of options as far as where you want to put accessories and how much weight you're going to have on the front of your gun.
Alright guys, so now that we've talked a little bit about the application of these rails, you can find these at most retailers. I know Owen picked his up at E-Vike, and I think I got mine at Airsoft GI, around $100.
Now that Andrew's talked to you guys a little bit about the price of these two rails, I'm going to dive into some of the specifics on the Troy Battle Rail. This is my personal gun we got here. Give you a quick overview shot. So the battle rail utilizes all of these little holes cut out of the side and bottom of the rail. As you can see, you've got a built-in 20mm rail on top. So what these holes are here for is primarily to reduce weight, but what it also does is you can attach all these little rail segments that we showed you earlier at any angle you so choose on the rail. Side, bottom, and also at a 45-degree angle. So on this particular rail, what I've attached, we'll start up top. This is a PEC battery box, just a standard PEC 15. You can see my connectors here on the side. I'm just running small Tamiya standard connection. I've got a Magpul M-Bus sight up front, and then on the bottom I've got a Magpul MVG, not the RVG, and that's another cool thing about this rail, is that it doesn't only accept the rail sections that it comes with, but you can basically attach anything to it that will fit through the rail itself. So the way that I did this is I used the regular, you probably can't see it in there, but I used the regular MOE connector and the MOE screw. The hardest part of connecting this MVG grip was probably just getting that MOE plate into the center of the rail where I wanted it. But after that, it was pretty smooth. I just got the screw through there, and I was able to tighten this thing onto the rail. So those are basically my personal accessories that I've attached to the rail. Get a close-up here, going on some of the trademarks. You've got your Troy trademark on the right side of the rail here. You got your rail markings up top, and then on the left side here, kind of hidden under the EOTech there, you can see 4 milsim only. So that's not quite a real trademark, but it's there. Some other little details on the rail. It's got all of these lines and grooves on the side. And what that is they're basically just guide rails for the backer of the 20mm rails. And they're actually on the inside as well. And that's primarily where they're going to be used. Alright, so now that I've told you some of the specifics about the battle rail, Andrew's going to jump in and tell you guys about his VTAC rail.
Alright guys, so I picked up a VTAC rail, which is a little bit different. There's not necessarily a real advantage to either rail. Similar properties in that you can hook rails anywhere in you want, like 45-degree angles, which is nice. So really, like, all the trades are similar, but you can see here we have a Viking Tactics trade instead of just your standard Troy. I think there could be... there's no trades on this side, so this one is definitely more minimal on the trades. But but similar. It has the grooves, and then you got your just your long sort of inserts for rail segments. So what I have on here is I have my PEC 15 battery box, and we'll talk about how we wired those in a little bit. I threw a Madbull rail cover on here so that I can clamp over, grab it kind of like that, which these rails are really nice for if you really want to do the thumb over bore thing. These are China replicas, so they're really crappy M-buses. They're more just for looks than anything, but they work, I guess, if you need them to. So yeah, that's pretty much what we got. Oh, one more thing. We got PEC box, and it has a functional laser, so I wired the pressure switch up to here, and I don't know if you can see that lighting up, but it doesn't really work. I mean, doesn't actually go on target, but looks badass, scares people. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the VTAC rail system.
So now we're going to look at some of the comparison between these two rails. The difference you're going to notice right off the bat is the cutout in the rails. With the VTAC, we've got these straight elongated cutouts that reduce weight and allow you to attach those rails that we showed earlier. Whereas with the Battle rail, you've got all these little holes that have been milled out of the rail. Both rails have these lines cut into them, as explained earlier, to guide your rail segments into place. Other than that, they have the same body shape. So other than that, these rails pretty much have everything else in common. They've got the same attachment point here. So they come with a proprietary barrel nut. So you're going to replace whatever's on your gun out of the box with the proprietary Troy barrel nut. And then the rail's going to slide right on, and those two screws right there where you're going to tighten it on.
Okay, so I want to take a second and say that if you were thinking about purchasing any version of the Troy modular rail systems, they have lots of different types, lengths and everything, which we'll show you at the end. I really want to strongly caution you, if you're using a front wired gun, it's going to be difficult to wire it to a PEC. I'm going to have Owen talk about that in a second because he did that for us. But it was pretty difficult, more so difficult with the VTAC rail because this connector doesn't actually fit through here. So we had to get it in and connect. It was just a real hassle. So if you have a rear wired gun, these are prime. But if you're running a front wired gun, you might want to look into some other options that are easier to run with a PEC box.
Okay, so let's get into some of these specifics on how I wired these guns. So basically, the base gun on this was a full metal G&G combat machine. So basically it was wired to the front with a standard M4 7-inch handguard. So you can kind of see under the rails here the wires running around in there. So it turns out that with the G&G, with the way that the upper receiver slides onto the lower rather than hinges, it was actually a lot more difficult than the next gun that I'll show you. So basically I had to halfway slide the rail on and then disconnect the wires at their base connection points, slide it through the rail because this Tamiya connector on the VTAC won't actually fit through those slots. So I had to slide the wires through, reconnect them, then I had to put the fuse box back on top of the fuse. Then I was able to slide the rail the rest of the way on and attach everything. So then what we have going on outside the rail is this is Andrew's LiPo wire. So that's just kind of nesting between the PEC and the EOTech. And then it's coming around the side, and that's where they hook up. So I'd say that the G&G wiring was more complicated than this gun. Base gun on this was a KWA KM4. This gun actually had a short 10-inch barrel out of the box, so what I had to do here to get my flash hider out to this point was also put on a 2-inch M4 profile barrel extension. The other thing that I run with this gun is my Gemtech 6-inch black side suppressor, So that actually sits down inside of the rail and gives it a kind of integrally suppressed look. So if you're going for something like that, it looks really cool on these rails. So as far as the wiring to the PEC goes, it's actually on the left side in this case. It just turned out that it was easier to do it that way with the KWA. So this was a little bit easier than the G&G because back here the KWA upper receiver hinges like an actual M4 rather than sliding on like a G&G. So that just made manipulating the wires when I was getting them through the base of the rail a little bit easier. I had to do the same deal where I actually have it still in here. Might be able to see it under the electrical tape there. I actually have the fuse box open under here and then it's electrical taped to the outer barrel. That was the only way that I was able to fit it under the rail in this instance. And then I've got the gun connector popping out right here. And then this is my LiPo wire running down along the left side. I put some electrical tape around that to hide the positively charged wire. So other than that, both the guns are running just a standard PEC 15 battery box. Mine was about $10 on Evike. Andrew, where'd you get yours?
Probably off Evike.
Yeah, so both of these came from Evike, $10 to $15, relatively inexpensive, and we've got 7.4 LiPos running inside of them, so they're giving the guns a decent rate of fire, and they're lasting a pretty long time on the field.
One thing I will warn you about on the PEC box is don't get one that is a battery box and has a laser, because you will be disappointed with the quality of your laser. I got mine and I was like, oh, this is going to be sweet because I can just throw a flashlight on it and then I'll have, you know, all the upgrades I need. It doesn't really work. It works, it's just like way off target, feet off target, in fact. And so, you're really not, I mean, I guess if you want to designate targets, then that could be an effective use of it, but definitely not for target acquisition.
So, in conclusion, just like we said at the beginning of the video, these rails are really meant for high-speed, low-drag, lightweight setups. Something that we didn't mention earlier is that on Andrew's G&G here, this is the 9-inch configuration of the VTAC. So then on my gun, we've got the 11-inch version of the Alpha rail.
So if you are interested in one of these rails or a modular rail system, we want to say that this is definitely a great option, but it's not the only option. So definitely look around, Evike, Airsoft GI, different places, wherever you choose. I'm sure they probably have something like this. And you're going to be able to find lots of different types that are made by different companies, not just Madbull. I know there's lots of different ones, and just so you can get an idea of alternates to these rails. Maybe if you're running a front-wired gun and you don't want to go through the hassle of connecting all of it all weird, then maybe you find a different rail system that is more friendly to PEC boxes. But other than that, I think that pretty much wraps up the video, and we hope you enjoy this, and we hope that it was beneficial, and this will either give you the push to go out and buy one of these, or maybe it's just going to help with your search for another rail system. Alright, thank you guys, and have a good night.